Let's bring him in. CFL on TSN's Jim Barker with a plethora of things to get to in the Canadian Football League. Jim, you've been in this situation before. We saw this coming. The Argos would clinch early, and they have. Now they're resting Chad Kelly, and they're still crying about it in Winnipeg. What do you think about this story?
Well, when I first heard about it, I look at it a little different. Obviously, as a fan, you want to see the best go against the best, and you want to, really, this game for Winnipeg is about winning their division. And the Argos have earned the right to do what they're doing. Now, personally, as I looked at it on the weekend before they made the announcement, I said, what can best prepare us for the Grey Cup? And to me, this is their last game. This is a Grey Cup environment. It could be if they wouldn't have said Chad Kelly isn't playing, they would have just gone on normal. It would be a Grey Cup atmosphere there on tonight. I think that they could have started Chad and played. This is what I probably would have done. Started Chad and played him a quarter. Not ever said he's only going to play a quarter. I want them thinking, you're going to get my best. And I'm going to give them, 10 different formations, different things to see how they react. And give Chad a feel of what it's like to have that 6'8" pass rusher in the B gap, because that's a different feeling. I mean, they have Sean Oakman, but when you're in a ball game, it's different when you have Willie Jefferson on the field trying to bat passes down and just giving him a feel of the kinds of things that he might get in Winnipeg, and then take him out after a quarter. But I think there's a lot of things they could have gained in their preparation for a potential Grey Cup opponent. With that being said, again, the main thing is that they're healthy, and if they felt like, they're not going to see much against Winnipeg, because Winnipeg's going to just throw nothing but blitz every play. They got a quarterback who's never started before, and they're going to just come after him, and that's what you do with a young quarterback. And this game is crucial for Winnipeg, because if they win it, and then BC wins it, then next week basically they're playing for that Western Division title.
Of course, for that reason, Winnipeg should be happy that Chad Kelly isn't playing. And by the way, folks, our CFL coverage is brought to you in part by Sober Carpenter non-alcoholic craft beer. Check them out at sobercarpenter.com. I'm enjoying everybody getting wrapped up in Dinwiddie said this, Dinwiddie said that. Who cares what they say in the media? I don't even read the quotes anymore, because that doesn't mean anything at all. But do you think Chad Kelly plays, how much do you play him down the stretch, knowing you've already clinched first?
Again, I think always about my team. What does he need? And, Don Matthews used to say, how do we know what he needs? He's going to tell us. So if it was Doug Flutie, he would say, Doug, how much do you need in this and this and this? And listens to what the quarterback says. Now, you got a little different situation here with Chad, because he's a first-year quarterback. So Ryan has to make some of those decisions. The fans, it's a difficult one, because let's say they play Chad and just play him a quarter and take him out. Are the fans going to be irate about that? And they're going to say, well, he really kind of lied to us and was deceptive and, that kind of thing. I was kind of surprised that so early in the week they said that they were going to sit him. So they had made that decision long before. And no team has ever clinched it with 6 games to go. If Winnipeg had clinched it, they could sit Zach Collaros. But they lost to Ottawa, and they've lost 4 games. They've lost games, so they don't have that right. They need to win, because they're going to lose the Western Division if they don't win this one next week. So again, it's one of those things that it's beautiful for the league, because there's no right answer to this. We're not going to know the right answer until after the Grey Cup. And if Chad Kelly lines up and he's healthy and he plays fantastic, then Ryan Dinwiddie made the right move. I'm already going to say he made the right move. The Bomber D-line has a history and reputation of headshots on quarterbacks. So I'm all for Dinwiddie. And I'm tired of the crying out of Winnipeg. I'm tired of it. Moving on tonight. It's the reason they're crying. It's the reason they're crying that has you upset. Because there's, I don't know. It is what it is, Rod.
I hate complainers. You don't hear me complain much, except about people that complain. Riders at Lions tonight. The point spread doesn't matter, but BC is favored by 10. That's a huge game. To me, this is Canada's game of the week. A lot of pressure on the Riders for sure. What's your read on this game?
Again, I think that it's BC disappointed me last time they played in BC Place, and but I just think they're a better team. They have more weapons. Saskatchewan is just, they have played flat. They just haven't played. Last week against Ottawa, they just didn't play well. I mean, the score flattered them, and that's sad. So I've kind of lost a little bit of confidence in Saskatchewan and the kind of team they have. Again, the Calgary plays Hamilton, and who knows what happens with that in terms of potential Calgary catching them. I don't know. I think that's a tough one. Saskatchewan plays Calgary again, and then Calgary's other two games are against BC and Winnipeg, and both those teams need to win in order to stay ahead of the other one. So I don't like Calgary's chances at all. I think Saskatchewan's going to be in the playoffs. I don't see Ottawa catching them and crossing over. I just don't see that happening. So, Saskatchewan tonight, you're getting four of the playoff teams, and it should be very interesting. Saskatchewan needs to assert themselves. They need to figure out what they are. They've been a good team at stopping the run, then they're not a good team at stopping the run. They can run the ball, then they can't run the ball. They're kind of an enigma to me. I thought their tackling last week was pathetic, and you can't win this time of the year with really poor tackling because teams are throwing high percentage passes. They're going to get the ball to their playmakers, and you better have guys that come up and tackle them. And last week, I didn't think Saskatchewan did. So, again, I think this is a difficult game for Saskatchewan. I think it's a big game for BC, obviously, and setting up that match next week between Winnipeg and BC, which will be phenomenal.
Well, it would almost take a miracle for Sask to not make the playoffs based on what you all just said. Edmonton's clinging, and after an 0-9 start, they shouldn't be in the playoffs. Calgary doesn't really deserve it either. So I don't get all the negativity surrounding the Rough Riders other than right now it's a negative situation, negative organization. But on that Calgary-Hamilton game, all things being equal, and boy, would it be great if Bo was playing for this game, this matchup. But what are you seeing in Calgary? We talked about Dave Dickenson maybe too much on his plate. That can't be changed now. That's an off-season thing.
No.
Huge game Saturday, Stamps and Ticats. What's your read on that? And if Taylor Powell wins, why would they even talk about playing Bo Levi the rest of the way? Because this kid is getting hot.
And that's a great point. Do you bring Bo Levi back for who knows what? They're in a battle to catch Montreal and to basically get the home field advantage in the playoff games, and they're very much in that. Calgary's going to be playing for the first time it's going to be not very long before they're playing their string out, and their last two games are against BC and Winnipeg, and that doesn't bode well for them. And it's sad to watch the crowds because I was there back in 2003 and contributed to. When the crowds went down under 5,000, and then 2004 I was replaced, but the team was not very good. The city didn't buy into them. And I'm not saying that's happening now, but when John Frazani and Ted Hellard bought that team in 2005, it became Calgary's team again. And I was fortunate enough to get to go back as a general manager and help to rebuild it. But there was just a lot of work to do. Now it's down now for different reasons. Again, I think they've had a ton of injuries. They've got 17 key guys that have gone on 6 game. Obviously, the Markeith Ambles thing kind of goes, to people, they just released him. But there's always more to that kind of thing. When you have a guy, it just like there was in Toronto, when they released him, it like immediately sent a shock to me because I thought he was very at what he does. He does the dirty work that nobody sees. He blocks those 260-pound defensive linemen and with, no regard. And he's willing to turn up on linebackers and do those kinds of things. So when those kinds of things happen, when you let guys like that, veteran guys, at this time of the year, you just let them go. You're not keeping them on the PR. You're just letting them go. There's things that are issues that you're trying to get control of your football team. And I had the same thing happen to me when I was in Calgary in 2003, and I let go of Lawrence Phillips week 15, and we were coming over to play the Riders, and ended up losing that game. And who knows? It was I fired him on Wednesday. We had the game plan planned with him being there, and there comes a point when you say, what's more important? So when those kind of things happen, it's kind of an alert to me this time of the season when veteran guys get released completely from the roster. So we don't know. Nobody knows what's going on in Calgary. I think Jake Mayer has been adequate. I don't think he's been a Grey Cup quality quarterback yet, but I do think he's been adequate, and he can grow. And as they get some of their big playmakers back, and their offensive line has been undergone a lot of change all year. So it's kind of a Calgary to me is a team floundering. I don't see them as a team that's challenging at all this year. I don't think they believe they can challenge this year. I mean, obviously they're not going to say that publicly, but Dave is probably as honest a head coach in press conferences as anybody out there. And like he said last time, we just need one win. And I see a coach, general manager that's just trying to find a path to get back to being what the Calgary Stampeders have been.
Yeah, well, you need just one win, and then you need another one. And then you need another one. And the Ottawa people said the same thing. Like, we just need a win, and they got it against Sask last year. I can't let you go without this. We got a lot of U.S. fans of XFL and USFL that watch this show every day. We're on the air in 31 states on television. I'd love to know your take on the merger and, frankly, how that impacts the Canadian Football League, if you don't mind.
Well, I think it helps the Canadian Football League because they're cutting down to 10 teams. I was in the original XFL, and it was fantastic. But Vince McMahon lost $120 million. This year, they only lost half that because they went out of one hub in the XFL. They paid $15 million for the rights to the XFL. It was a uphill battle from the beginning. They tried to cut corners. They tried to do things the right way. I think the USFL has been bought by Fox. And from what I understand from people in that league, it's more of a league for their betting, the Fox betting line. And they feel like it's cheaper to run a football league than it is to have maybe 4 sitcoms, something along those lines. That's how it was put to me. And it made sense. So I see this as, again, they are a true feeder league. I don't think, for example, quarterback, and I think Darnell Sankey said it best. When he came up here, the CFL is a career league. It's a league where you can make a career and leave a mark, and there's a Hall of Fame, and there's never going to be that in the USFL. The USFL it's a tryout league. I mean, you have to understand, the USFL came from a thing called the Spring League, where players paid to go play so that they could get seen by NFL teams. Well, now they have a TV contract, and those players that were paying to play now are getting to play. And they're not having, they're making a little bit of money, not enough to make it real worth it. I think it's one of those things that's going to continue to be what it is. They're not really they're putting a lot of players into training camps. NFL teams are, because of how their timing is, they're taking people right off of that, putting them in training camp so they have enough offensive linemen to give their team their defense a look and enough defense. So I think only 2 guys have made it. The returner for Dallas, and there's one other guy, I'm not even sure who he is, that are on active rosters in the NFL, from both the XFL and the USFL. So again, I think that's it wasn't a shock to me. I thought the XFL was kind of on the way out if they wouldn't have merged. Now the merger thing, they can kind of save face. How much Fox is going to put into it, I don't know. I don't see the quality of play being that much better. The problem is you're going to have different quarterbacks every year. There's nobody, and they're going out of everybody in Birmingham or everybody in Arlington and fly to you wherever you play. So the Las Vegas team they're playing in Las Vegas, but they just fly there the day of the game. And it's hard to develop a fan base anywhere doing that. And, a couple of cities, Seattle and St. Louis has done okay. But in terms of for the CFL, I think that what it does, it opens up some offensive linemen. I think guys that maybe would go to the XFL and get hurt, that kind of thing. I think offensive linemen that have gone through their NFL thing are going to be more likely to go to the CFL than they are to wait for the USFL.
I appreciate the insight from Don in Ottawa. He says, well said, Jim. Allie in Texas writes in. She says, happy Football Friday, RP and squad. Glad I made it in time to see Jim's smiling face. We are out of time. Jim, break a leg this weekend. We'll be watching. Thanks for the time.
Sounds great. All right, Rod. Thanks.